What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. You know, we're pumping out a bunch of content right now, and I appreciate if you guys hit that subscribe. But welcome to the juice. So if you guys are new to the juice, this is basically my recap video where I dive in, give you all the rods, reels, lines, baits, patterns, all of the juice from my previous tournament. So we just finished up stage 2 on the Bass Pro Tour. Finished up 4th place, had a great tournament, caught a lot of bass, relatively speaking, for Santee Cooper. So I feel like we got some good juice coming up. But the juice is presented by Fish USA. If you guys aren't familiar with Fish USA, it's a huge online tackle retailer. They got everything you could ever need for bass fishing and just fishing in general. So if you need anything fishing related, Fish USA is the place to do it. And to make it even better, we're gonna have direct links in the description down below for all of the tackle and rods and reels, line, everything I'm about to mention here. So you can just check the description, hit the links right over to Fish USA and pick up the tackle that I used on Santee Cooper. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in, pull out a few rods, and dive into the juice from Santee Cooper. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. Okay, we'll pull that one out. We got stuff everywhere. So, we kept it pretty simple this week on Santee Cooper. And we pretty much power fished the entire time. So really, we caught them on really 2 main baits. We caught them on a Lipless crankbait, Bill Lewis hammer trap, a couple other baits, a couple Kellers mixed in there. We'll dive into all that. And a chatterbait. Really, that was my 2 main baits. You know, just the 3/8 ounce chatterbait with the 3-inch Yamamoto Seiko on the back. Those were my 2 main baits. Now the pattern that I was fishing is, so we get there for practice, the water is muddy. And if you guys know me, I hate fishing muddy water. So I spent a bunch of time running around trying to get out of the muddy water, and I couldn't really find any good clean water. So I kind of scratched the clear water thing out of my head. You know, it took me the whole first day of practice to really get it through my head that I was gonna have to fish muddy water. And then I got to thinking, I was like, what do I like to do that I could fish in dirty water? And that thought that I came up with was a little bit deeper grass. So I started looking for areas where there was a little bit deeper grass. And, you know, I had an area that I found in pre-practice. You know, it was on the north end of the lower lake, Lake Moultrie. So I went down there about halfway through the second day of practice and just said, you know, this fits my style. I really like how this area sets up. There's, you know, a bunch of water there that all sets up similar. So I'm gonna find these fish. I know they're gonna be spawning there within a few weeks or a month. So they're gonna be somewhere along the line, you know, whether they're already in the back, if they're halfway, if they're out deep. I mean, they're gonna be somewhere on that train of going into spawning. So I found where they were gonna spawn and then just kind of worked my way backwards until I located the fish. So I found a couple areas that had some hydrilla, and that kind of led me into the baits. You know, a little bit deeper hydrilla, I would say from that 3 to 6 foot range, which, you know, for me, that's not really deep, but for Santee Cooper, that's really deep because a lot of the cover in that lake was 2 foot or less, especially right now with the water being a little bit low. So I found that little bit deeper grass, put a chatterbait in my hand and practice, and was able to get a couple bites, and that kind of gave me some confidence. Once I got a couple bites on the chatterbait, I started looking into other baits that I could get them on, and that's where I kind of stumbled into the hammer trap and other lipless baits, just to you know, kind of have a rotation of different baits and show them. And you know, as the tournament went on, I kind of keyed in my areas a little bit better and, you know, kind of honed in the sweet spot per se, and found exactly where there was multiple fish sitting And if you guys watch live, you've seen there was a couple times where I caught them 2 or 3 4 casts in a row. And that was just kind of from, you know, spending more time there during the tournament and figuring out those little sweet spots that those fish were sitting on. So let's jump in and I'll show you exactly the juice here, the tackle. I mean, this is freshly rigged up from championship round right here. So we'll start with the chatterbait. This is just a 3/8 ounce jackhammer with, I think it's the spot remover color. And then we got the 3-inch Yamamoto Seiko on the back in the, I think that's called Disco Green. I think that's what that color is called. Let's look, I got it right here. Yeah, Disco Green, right there, the 3-inch. I really like that 3-inch on the back of the chatterbait just because it's a nice small profile, very compact, and then it allows this bait to dart and dance a lot. You know, a bigger trailer kind of slows this bait down and doesn't let it dance as much, but that smaller trailer allows the bait to hunt, and when you pop it, it kind of twitches a lot. So throwing it on 15 pounds Seaguar and VizX fluorocarbon, you know, you guys see me use that all the time. I actually caught some really big carp on this line, like 40-pound carp that I snagged, and I could not break this. I was literally yanking and trying to break the fish off, and I could not break it. So that's some super strong line, plenty strong for all that. And then if you guys know me, you know my favorite chatterbait rod is this right here. It's the Favorite Hex 7'5" medium heavy. It's so sensitive. You can feel every turn of that blade on there. You can feel if it hits the grass and feel when those fish just kind of push it and don't really bite it real hard. You can feel all of that with this rod. And it's very important to have a pretty sensitive chatterbait rod, I think. That's something that not many people really talk about, but I think it's very important to have a good high-end rod for your chatterbait fishing. So I had 3 or 4 of these on the deck. You know, I had a straight white one, and then I had a 1/2 ounce in the spot remover color as well, just if I wanted, you know, if it was extra windy or I wanted to keep that bait down a little more and kind of slow it down. So that was really the chatterbait setup. And then we get over to the Lipless. So like I said, we threw the Bill Lewis hammer trap. This is the 5/8 ounce size right here. And this is the purple nurple color. So I was throwing this one, I was throwing a couple different red variations, and then a couple different other lipless baits as well that kind of went a little bit deeper than the hammer trap. So the hammer trap really excels over that grass that I would say 2 to 3 foot of water above it, you know, from the surface of the water to the top of that grass. If that's 2 to 3 feet of water, that's when the hammer trap really shines, because this bait, it's a big, heavy bait, so this is a 5/8 of an ounce, but it thumps so hard when you're pulling it or kind of yo-yoing it like I was, and it doesn't get down deep and hung up in that grass. So the hammer trap really shines in that shallower stuff, and I was able to use the hammer trap, catch some key fish on that, and when you get them schools fired up, you could just throw this in there, kind of yo-yo it a couple times, and they would just thump it on that slack line as it's shimmying down. So that's the cool thing about the hammer trap is it's a bait that you can fish so many different ways. You can just cast it and wind it, and it's just thumping along. But I like to kind of yo-yo it and stop and go kind of retrieve and let that bait shimmy on the way down. And a lot of my bites were after I'd pop it and just let it shimmy down, they were kind of following it, and that's when they would thump it. And man, that is a fun bite, catching them on a lipless. So for the lipless baits, the hammer trap, we were throwing it 15-pound Seaguar and VizX again, same line, but we went to the Favorite Defender rod. So this is a very affordable rod. This is a $100 rod. You know, everybody can afford this, and I just used it to finish 4th place on the Bass Pro Tour. So it is a very good rod for certain techniques, and the lipless just happens to be one of those. So it's the same length and action as the Hex. So it's a 7'5" medium heavy. It's very similar action-wise, but the Defender Blank is just a little bit slower. And what that means is just a little bit more moderate, so it bends a little bit more than the Hex. And that is perfect for these lipless baits. It's a little bit softer for when you hook those fish with treble hooks, and then just allows that bait to thump perfectly with that soft tip on the Defender. But really impressed with the new Defenders, and you know, that put a lot of my fish this week were caught on the Defender. So we're throwing the hammer trap, and then like I said, we're throwing a red version and then a couple other baits as well with the lipless. All of them, same setup, same line, all that good stuff. But that's gonna do it, guys. That's gonna wrap up the juice. It was pretty simple. Like I said, I pretty much spent all of my tournament in one section of the lake, just kind of fishing around a few key spots. You know, I knew there was bass there, but it wasn't fast and furious all the time. So there was a lot of dead time, and you just kind of had to mill around in those areas where you knew there was fish, and just kind of wait them out and just kind of slow and steady, get a bite here, bite there. And then every once in a while you'd hit a flurry and catch a couple real quick. But if you were running around all the lake, you would never be able to be there for that time. So that's kind of my strategy heading into it. I'm super pumped to finish 4th place. You know, I was a little bit worried about this tournament when the schedule came out. So to finish 4th, you know, I couldn't be happier with that. So appreciate you guys tuning into the juice. Like I said, check the description down below for links directly to all this tackle. Hopefully you guys learned something. Tournament videos are coming next, and we'll see you guys next time.